All right, so last year, Jehovah's Witnesses were given the green light to pursue higher education for the first time ever. This was huge news because historically, the Jehovah's Witnesses organization trashed college for decades. It was a threat to their control. You were going to learn things and be exposed to things that threatened their teachings and ideology. And as a result, generations of Jehovah's Witnesses suffered financially. Basically, the leaders just waltzed into their PR room like nothing ever happened. No apology, zero acknowledgement of the damage they inflicted over the generations. But here's the thing, I totally called it. Nothing's really changed. This week, Jehovah's Witnesses all over the world are still being told to avoid higher education, go to trade school or whatever, which is a separate argument in itself. That's fine if you want to go to trade school. But if you go to college, the point is, we can't remain the center of your life. The whole point of going to college, okay, in theory, is to better yourself, better your situation, your financial situation, your career prospects, so you can move on to bigger and better things. But what Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be hearing over the next 2 weeks is if you go to college and start to do your own thing, possibly deviate from the organization, be prepared to get cracked from us, increased monitoring of your activity, and, face possible shunning if you decide you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. Okay, so this is part 1 of their hypocrisy. All right, I'm going to unpack this article in 3 main sections. All right, so the title of the article is Make Wise Decisions Regarding Additional Education. All right, first red flag right there. The use of the phrase additional education. You notice it doesn't say higher education. Okay, more on that later. I'm going to cover that later. Let's scroll down here. Let's go to paragraph 1. It says, what type of work would you like to do when you grow up? If you are young, you have likely been asked this question many times. The best career that you could choose is a career in full-time service. However, you will also need to support yourself financially. Right out the gate, not only are they talking to the witnesses like they're a bunch of 5-year-olds. They're like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's just dumb. But it's also the perfect example of what I'm talking about. Let's guide you on the topic of higher education by right out the gate, telling you should spend all your time on us. Right there. It's like, the best career you could choose is a career in full-time service. They're like, it's ridiculous. So there you go. We're just going to tell you that right now up front. That's the best option. But then they follow it up with, but we understand. You got to make money. You got to pay rent. We understand this. We're so practical. Look at us. We're such a helpful, practical resource telling you the absolute freaking obvious. Go back in time and tell this to all the able-bodied Jehovah's Witnesses you persistently pressured, coerced, and frankly emboldened into switching to part-time work. Mind you, a lot of these witnesses had full-time jobs and were repeatedly hearing this drilled into their brains, so they ended up switching to part-time work, then couldn't feed their families, couldn't make rent, who then end up coming back to the congregation, crying because they're struggling, and, they end up being a burden on the people who are doing well. And because we all got to make nicey nice with each other, hi, sister so-and-so, your car broke down again because you're not prioritizing taking care of your business. Well, you just had another baby and you can't even afford diapers because your husband's a moron who quit his job. You see, it becomes a burden on the people who are doing well in the congregation to feel like, all right, everyone, let's pool our resources. Hey, can someone help brother so-and-so or help sister so-and-so? And it's not the same as people fell on hard times. Like they were doing well and just shit happens. That's what a congregation is for. You would expect that your spiritual community or religious community would be there for you to help you in practical ways, offer practical assistance. That's not what I'm talking about. These are people who chose to have kids, chose to quit their jobs because they're being told it's going to elevate their status in the congregation. They call it the full-time ministry in this article, which is ridiculous. That's what witnesses would do for decades because it made them sound uber spiritual and reneged on their adult responsibilities. So that's what I'm referring to, not people who just are having a hard time, who normally were doing pretty well and then they fell on hard times. Well, okay, now we got to kind of pull together and help brother so-and-so, sister so-and-so, and the kids. Or maybe they don't get any help. That happens too. And by the way, you think the guy sitting up at Watchtower at headquarters, who's sitting pretty, is going to help the little guy? Hell no. All right, Watchtower told generations of witnesses to throw caution to the wind, choose a career in full-time service, and Jehovah will provide. Remember that? Any ex-J-dubs watching? Jehovah will provide. He'll take care of you. No. Okay, and as a result, countless Jehovah's Witnesses made really irresponsible decisions that threatened their family's health and well-being. They were told by the same people who wrote this article. Okay, the guy who wrote this article, yeah, he doesn't have to worry about rent. Hell no, he doesn't have to worry about rent, groceries, car notes. So this paragraph is not only a completely asinine statement of the obvious, but once again, it takes zero accountability for the role they've played in putting countless families, countless Jehovah's Witness families in financial jeopardy. All right, paragraph 4, listen to this. Pay attention to this paragraph. It says, the Bible says that each person must carry his own load of responsibility. Thus, each adult Christian must make his or her own decision about whether to obtain additional education. It's got a little footnote. I'm going to read it. Parents are also responsible for decisions regarding their young child's education. Yada, yada. Guidance can be prepared for the child to make wise decisions about education once he's an adult. See, this is what pissed everyone off when they heard the announcement that it was okay to suddenly go to college. It's up to your conscience. It's totally your own decision about whether you want to obtain additional education. Who the hell are you? Who were you ever to wield this sort of authority over my life to tell me what major decisions I can make for my own life? If you were never a Jehovah's Witness and you're watching this, what I want outsiders to understand, or what I hope they understand from this video, is Jehovah's Witnesses aren't just going to church. They are extremely controlling, so much so that they have their own court system, their own internal court system, but that's another topic for a different video. The point is, every single aspect of a witness's life is micromanaged. And the mere fact alone, we decided it's okay for you to use your conscience. It's insanity. That should tell you right there, like, I gotta wait on your permission? Yes. As a witness, you gotta wait on their permission. Part of this micromanaging included telling witnesses for years, for decades, that they disapprove of you going to college. It wasn't officially a rule. They couldn't make it a rule, but oh my God, would you get crap for it? You're gonna get crap for it? We are going to look down on you. Absolutely gonna judge you as a spiritually weak person. So you see, against the historical context, to suddenly pull an about face like, oh, who are we to judge? Shouldn't judge anyone's decision to go to college or pursue higher. Height of hypocrisy. Again, conveniently dismisses their long-standing track record of doing exactly that, judging witnesses for going to college. Okay, but let's click on this little doodad here, this little footnote. All right, going back to what I was saying earlier. The footnote reads, in the past, our publications have discouraged Christians from obtaining certain types of additional education. There we go, additional education again. See that? Okay, so a little self-awareness here. Hell has officially frozen over. A little self-awareness that they used to do this. For example, the article Parents, What Future Do You Want for Your Children, published in the October 1st, 2005 issue of The Watchtower, commented on the dangers associated with higher education. While these dangers still exist, deciding whether to obtain additional education is a personal matter. See, this is really an attack on, they're not talking about you becoming a nail tech. They're talking about you studying philosophy, maybe learning about evolution, something that obviously goes against their core tenets. Each Christian, in the case of young children, each family head should prayerfully consider Bible principles and the unique factors involved with a certain educational program before making a decision. Okay, no Christian. This is another part that really pissed people off. No Christian, including elders, because I know damn well elders were up in their business, judging everybody. No Christian, including elders, should judge a fellow Christian's personal decision on this matter. It's laughable. I'm going to elaborate on this hypocrisy even further. You see, they're trying to retroactively kind of patch over this. No harm, no foul. You do your thing. It's not our place to judge. Bullshit. And they're using the term additional education instead of higher education because they can't make it look like they're fully endorsing secular education or making it look like they're cool with you moving on campus, shacking up with college boyfriend or girlfriend, because that's part of it. No, I'm not saying everybody who goes to college shacks up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, but you're going to be exposed to these things. So they can't be like, go spread your wings. They got to say stuff like additional so that it could encompass or include going to a university. But try to avoid it. I mean, this whole article is chock full of fake testimonies. That's another thing Jehovah's Witnesses are notorious for. Chock full of these fake testimonies of young people choosing trade school instead, which again is fine. I mentioned earlier, it's a separate argument. If you want to go to trade school, get into the trades, that's totally fine. The problem is not that. The problem is the use of very strong coercive language. It is full of coercive language that is telling witnesses, and this is the point of the whole video, all right? basically telling witnesses don't pursue a degree. They stop short of saying it, but they might as well. Don't go to college. Just say it. Okay, which brings us to the climax of our article. Ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is being one of Jehovah's Witnesses should always be your number one goal, the most important thing in your life. I'm going to read this paragraph that says the schedule. Consider how many hours you will spend each week attending classes, receiving training, and doing homework. Again, practical questions. This is what Jehovah's Witnesses do. They take reasonable talking points and wrap it up in a whole heap of shit. So anybody in their right mind would consider that, well, how much time am I going to be spending? What's the course load? These are reasonable, practical questions, but notice what they follow it up with. Will you still have time for your spiritual routine and family obligations? Could your secular studies leave you feeling too tired mentally for meeting preparation or personal study? And there it is. You see, that's the quiet part. They've just dialed down the crazy a little bit. They haven't really actually changed their position on college. It's gaslighting. Oh, look at us. We're being progressive now. We shouldn't judge. But we totally are keeping tabs on how often you miss meetings. You will absolutely get text messages from people asking your whereabouts if they don't see you for a while, or if you're inconsistent. If we see you in town, out and about on a date or something, with a worldly person, someone we don't recognize from the congregation, we sure as hell will get up in your business. Or, someone from the congregation, if they see you out and about, they're definitely going to snitch on you. This is gaslighting in full effect. They use these activities. Jehovah's Witnesses use all of these activities, preaching, meetings, as signals to the leaders. Did this person do X, Y, and Z? If so, all right, then we're good. We're in the clear. They're a good person. They're spiritual. We don't have any cause for suspicion because they're at their post. They're standing at their post, matching our expectations, doing what they know they damn well better be doing, or else we're going to get up in their business. So again, this illusion that they're presenting that they're, more hands-off now, encouraging your independence, or at least allowing you to have your independence, go do your own thing, we shouldn't judge, is just a total farcical lie. And here's the thing, again, and I've seen this with my own two eyes, for the most part, generally speaking, people of other faiths and denominations don't run into this problem because you're not dealing with a high control group. You're not dealing with a cult whose goal is to isolate you from greater society and keep tabs on you. There are plenty. This world is full of sincere, devout people who are very proud of their religious heritage, who make it to church, Shabbat, Mass, or whatever every week, who don't need their leaders breathing down their neck to make sure they're falling in line. Okay, let's revisit this photo here that's featured under paragraph 11. Just look at this picture for a second, all right? You got this young guy, young Jehovah's Witness guy, 19, 20 years old. This visual aid, this collage of photos is done for a reason. They do it to guilt trip Jehovah's Witnesses. Notice everything he has to do, okay? We're going to walk through this. He's probably what they call a ministerial servant in the organization. That's like a church deacon. So he's assisting here with the audio-visual department, passing around microphones where Jehovah's Witnesses do their commentary at their meetings. He has to preach on Saturday mornings. And you notice he's preaching with an older brother. That signals that someone older is always keeping an eye on you, okay? So he has to keep up his public preaching schedule. And because Jehovah's Witnesses are everyday people, yes, in the real world, he's got to go to work. And if this were real, if he were actually a barista, he'd be exhausted off his ass, working crazy shifts, not exactly pulling in six figures, okay? Then you see at the very far right corner, he's sitting in class at school trying to focus on his secular education. This is also intentional because it is in diametrical opposition to what his top priority should be, and that is the big fat primary photo on the left, focusing on his Jehovah's Witness life. Okay, that should be the main focus of his life. They are making it crystal clear that being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, we don't give a damn what you're learning in school. We don't care what's going to happen, with your career trajectory. That doesn't matter. Being one of Jehovah's Witnesses is the main focus of your life, which makes articles like these, and this is the main point, makes articles like these so maddening to Jehovah's Witnesses who might not be fully awake, but they know that something's off. Okay, well, if it's up to my conscience, if it's up to me, if it's up to my conscience to go to school, if it's my decision, why are you still trying to boss me around and dictate my priorities? Like, what the hell? The end result for believers is an extremely frustrating state of cognitive dissonance, where they hear one thing coming out of the mouth of their leaders, but then they can't pinpoint or articulate necessarily why they end up feeling guilty or like they never measure up. But I can tell you why any former Jehovah's Witness can tell you. It's because the leadership are master manipulators who are trying to get away with exerting as much control over you as possible, all while making it look like you're still a free moral agent who's remaining a practicing Jehovah's Witness of your own volition. Now, that's not what it is. It's because Jehovah's Witnesses wind up feeling worn down from trying to balance all their secular and religious responsibilities, all these expectations from their Jehovah's Witness family, congregation, and their spirit is broken. They just break. It gets to the point that they sacrifice their critical thinking for the path of least resistance. No, I don't really want to be here. Like, this is their secret inner monologue. No, I don't really want to be here, but if I take more hours at work, if I take that incredible career opportunity and move on with my life, I'm going to be considered bad association, possibly be excommunicated from the congregation, which means possibly that I'll never see my family again because of the shunning policy. This isn't paranoia. This isn't a reach. This rabbit hole or this spiral is extremely common because it has very real consequences for Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's why Jehovah's Witnesses' brains feel like they're going to explode. They live in a pressure cooker where they're hearing their leadership talk out both sides of their mouth and send conflicting information. And when they act on that conflicting information and pick the wrong thing, it has very real consequences for their life. Specifically, they will be ostracized, they will be isolated for their choice to pursue a secular life over being a Jehovah's Witness, if that's what they decide to do, if they decide they no longer want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. All right, stick around for part 2. I'm going to get deeper into this into the next article. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If you'd like more information about the Jehovah's Witnesses from a former member of 30 years, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.